I really tend not to talk here. I do a lot of that in my day job, and I want to sing here, but after the experience I've just had, I spoke to Rabbi Navarez and said I really want to share it because it was so meaningful. And we're talking about immersive experiences, and one of the things that came to me there is your heart can't feel what your eyes can't see. And to have the opportunity to see and to touch the work that we and all of you who support Federation and all of the organizations that do this work are doing was really incredibly meaningful. So I want to share a little bit with you about Moldova, where I went. It is not the fictional country that Anne Hathaway went to in The Princess Diaries. That's Genovia, in case you're wondering. This is Moldova. It is the poorest country in Europe. It is part of the former Soviet Union. It's been a country for about 20 years. There are about 2.5 million people that live there. The inflation rate is 35%. There are no jobs. People who want to work leave. This year, in that country of 2.5 million people, in the last year, 750,000 refugees have come from Ukraine. Think about that. It's an amazing number. 17,000 of them are Jewish. Only 13,000 or so Jews live in the entire country of Moldova, and 17,000 Jewish refugees have come through in this time. I want to show you my team. David Bark. How many of you know David Bark? He's a leader in this congregation. And Jeff Schindler, who is the son of Rose Schindler, a Holocaust survivor, a survivor of Auschwitz. It was very important for him to be on this trip with 30 other lay leaders from around the United States, from the CEO of the Joint Distribution Committee and the CEO of JFNA. It was an incredible group of leaders that we traveled with. And I want to start by giving a little context for Jewish life in Moldova. What you see here is the Holocaust Memorial, and I had to include the picture in the middle because the irony of having it next to the Mercedes-Benz dealership was lost on no one. Moldova is a country where 350,000 Jews were killed in the Holocaust, where two of the most famous pogroms in history happened. It is a country where, in the Soviet regime, you could not say you were Jewish, where many of the people that I met who are Jewish now, their parents never told them they were Jewish. They've only discovered it recently. They're really crypto-Jews, basically, in the former Soviet Union, who are now discovering their Jewish heritage. So let's talk about Ukraine for a moment. Where I was just standing near that memorial, is 35 miles from the Ukrainian border. That is why 750,000 refugees have come through Moldova, not because of services and not because of support, because it's close, and they want to be close and they want to get out. This is Inna. She is a member of the JDC, a staff member. She lives in Odessa. She took a bus for 4 hours to come and talk to us about what's happening in Ukraine. The JDC, the Joint Distribution Committee, and the Jewish Agency for Israel, World Ort, and Hillel International are providing incredible service. What she's showing you on the left is a chart of power. Power is maybe on every 3 hours or so, and then off for 3 to 6 hours, then on, then off, which sounds pretty bad, but it's worse than you think. It is freezing and it is dark at 4 o'clock. There are no street lights, there are no traffic lights, there is no cell phone service, there is no internet. Most of the buildings in Odessa are 9-story or 16-story buildings. There are a lot of elderly people in those buildings. They cannot get out and in of their apartments. They cannot cook. There is no heat. And when the bombing and the shelling is happening, 3 hours turns into 6, turns into 10, turns into 12. On the right, you see she's holding up a bottle of water. That's a bottle of water from the city of Nikolaev. Nikolaev is a city where 85 to 90% of the buildings have been destroyed. They don't exist anymore. The city is gone. For 3 months, there was no drinking water. That's what they've got now. So you can see why people want to leave. It is a brutal situation. People have no money. The price of food in Ukraine has risen by 3 times in the past year. School in Ukraine is online. No children have gone back to school. They are all learning online, and there's no heat, and there's no internet. So figure out how well that goes. They go to warming centers. They go to hubs. Jewish buildings have become hubs for people to go and get warm and to try and get online so they can continue their schoolwork. But imagine the loss that these kids have faced. First the pandemic, and now this. They're still not learning. The first thing we did when we got there, and if I tell you we were hungry to do something, all of you going to the Dominican Republic, you're going to want to do something, was we packed boxes. We packed as many boxes as we could. Every refugee, Jewish refugee in Moldova, gets a box of supplies once a month. They're getting about $140 a month in their pension. Their utility bills are about $400 a month. Right? So that gives you, that doesn't include their housing costs. They get this box to reduce the cost of what they are spending each month. This is the Jewish Cultural Center. Note the name. Joan and Erwin Jacobs built the Jewish Community Cultural Center in Kishinev, Moldova, which is quite remarkable when you think about the reach of some of the people that have made San Diego's Jewish community strong. It takes all of us to make the global Jewish community strong. This Jewish center is now the hub of Jewish life. And I want to make a point here about the way that investment in global Jewish community works and why it is so important. This is, again, a community where 20 years ago people couldn't say out loud that they were Jewish. They now have a thriving Jewish center. You can see San Diego's time is up on the wall. That's because this community helped to build this center. That's the synagogue. There were 70 synagogues in Kishinev before the Holocaust. There are now 4. And they've got people coming every day, which is amazing. What happened, you've got a chesed center, a loving kindness center. You have programs for children, programs for seniors, a volunteer center. The day the war started, February 24th, 1 year ago next Friday, they were able to instantaneously change what they were doing and begin serving all of the refugees and all of the people in Ukraine. The call center, within 24 hours, was staffed 24/7 with 140 volunteers from Israel, from Kishinev, and from Ukraine, who called more than 10,000 people in that first month in Ukraine to help them find escape routes, to get them medication, to get them food when they were stuck in their bombed-out buildings. So this is what that center did, and it's only because it was there before. There's no way you could have mobilized this. There's no way, if we weren't investing in the core, if we weren't constantly investing in the infrastructure, lives would have been lost, countless lives. They were able to get thousands and thousands of people out, get them to Israel, get them to Germany, get them to Spain, because of what was there. I want to show you just a little bit of what was there. This is the Chesed Center. This is a memory care facility, and every day these older people from around Kishinev come. They sang Hava Nagila with us. We wrote prayers together. It was a beautiful group, and they love coming there every day. If you look here, this is the call center. Eugenia, who is sitting with me, the blonde, she didn't know she was Jewish growing up. She found out about 10 years ago, started taking her kids to preschool at the Jewish center, ended up wanting to volunteer, and is now the head of the call center that I just talked about. The girl sitting next to her is 16 years old. She had to do something when the war broke out, knowing that she had Jewish roots, grandparents, great-grandparents. So she came in, and every single day after school, she came and she called people in Ukraine. She called them as they were running for shelter, as they were crying for escape. I asked her what that was like and what support she got. And she said, well, I cried every day, but it felt like I had to do it. Now she's coming to Tu B'Shvat Seders. That's Jewish renewal. These are refugees. This is it. This is the faces of refugees right here. On the lower left is Yevgeny. Yevgeny is from the city of Nikolaev, where they had the water that I showed you. He and his wife were stuck in their basement for 2 weeks with no food or water. And their children, their 2 sons and their grandson, finally said, we cannot continue to have you here. It is too stressful. We don't have enough money to feed ourselves. They all lost their jobs. And now they're all serving in the military, because all men between ages 18 and 64 are either serving, they are not allowed to leave. So they found Jaffe. They found the Jewish agency. They got paperwork. He's on his way to Israel now as an Olim, he and his wife. They're probably there by now, since I met them. Thousands of people have come through Moldova and are now going to Israel as refugees. And by the way, every one of those planes comes back loaded with goods for Ukrainian refugees. This is I do want to just one, I know they don't want me to keep going, but the woman on the left who you saw, Olga and her husband came. They sit in a hotel room, 10 months they've been there, waiting to go back to their city that no longer exists. she cried the whole time. I said, what have you been doing for 10 months? She said, watching the war. They want to go back. There's nothing they want more. He saw somebody who looked Jewish on the street, said, hey, do you know where I can buy some matzah? Within a week, they were connected to services, housing subsidies, food, and psychological support services. Just quickly, the World Ort School, 750 kids are enrolled in a Jewish public school in Kishinev, in the city where 40,000 Jews were murdered in the Holocaust. 70% of them Jewish, dozens of Ukrainian refugees, Jewish and not, in that school, learning every day. It is one of the most popular and sought-after schools in all of Kishinev. It's an amazing place, full of life. Hillel International. They don't just work with college students, they work with young adults. They had 4,500 kids in Ukraine participating before the war. They have 4,500 now. But now they're just participating, not just participating, they're volunteering. They're taking food deliveries to homebound seniors. They are helping people get out. And they are celebrating Jewish holidays. They're doing it on Zoom. They're doing it in person where they can, where it's safe. And if you look at that map, those are the routes they take to get safely from one place to another. Lesia, who's speaking to us there, traveled 23 hours by 4 trains from Kharkiv to talk to us for 10 minutes. That's how important it was to tell the story. And I want to just end, see, I'm close, I'm really close, I'm good, with renewal, right? This is a lot of darkness, and it is a lot of trauma, and it is heartbreak, and yet there is renewal there, and that's so magical. So these teenagers that you see in front of you, every one of them has discovered that they have Jewish grandparents or Jewish great-grandparents, and they are now part of a youth group, a Haverim, active Jewish teens movement. They come every day. They are planning Shabbat services. They are volunteering and developing their own. It's about volunteering there. It is such a core part of what they do. They love being Jewish. They love participating. Nikita, the one boy, lucky boy, he's surrounded by all these lovely young women. He started there in preschool. He's now volunteering. He is now leader in the youth group. And he calls himself the babushka IT guy. He goes out and helps old people with their IT. They talk about Haverim, the program, as my home, my soul. I want to do everything I can for my Jewish home. Lisa, one of the other girls there, her Jewish journey started with the Ukraine crisis. She knew she was Jewish. In the back of her mind, she'd heard there was family. She is now a full-time volunteer with the Ukrainian refugees. Every Sunday she goes to their apartments and helps them in any way she can. And I will leave you with the fact that the girls over there, they're all right now in Dallas at the BBYO International Conference because this connection is so important to them. So they're there with my son in Dallas now at the BBYO International Conference. So the very last slide I'll show you. I just found this amazing. This is across the street from the hotel where I stayed in Kishinev, Moldova, where there were no Jews 20 years ago. And now you've got Israeli street food, and they're serving falafel and baba ganoush and hummus, and people know what it is, and it is widely accepted. It is a renewal that has to be seen to be believed. So those of you who get my emails, they're very long, I'm sorry, but I try and only say things that I think need saying. And what I said when I wrote about this is, we don't help because they are Jews, we help because we are. We are. And so I just would suggest to any of you, if you want to help these folks, and it's not just these folks, if you look at these core investments and the infrastructure, the reason that the JDC was able to get Jews out of Turkey after the earthquake is because they were there the day before, right? Whenever an emergency happens, these organizations are there in 70 countries around the world. So check out our website, jewishinsandiego.org. We help because we are Jews. This is a prolonged humanitarian disaster. It's not going away anytime soon. And these people, it was a privilege to spend time with them. It was a privilege to hear their stories. And it is a privilege for me to continue to do everything that I can to help them survive and thrive. Shabbat Shalom.